오늘은 5월 22일 사우스레이크 타워에서 이제 세크라멘토를 향하여 갑니다. 이 길은 루트 50 웨스트로 가고 있습니다. 이제 시에라 산맥을 넘어가는 중이겠죠.
저게 어저께 타고 왔다.
알 수 있어?
뭐야?
그거는 에메랄드 베이에 있는 건데요.
그럼 거기서 이제 거기서 비싸.
트윈 브릿지.
그거 아니지? Over there. I don't know how they got up there.
Maybe she did. She did.
They can't take too many though.
어.
They're not very good at it.
이게 우리가 갈수록 커지는 거죠.
Truck. We get dumped into the truck over here. So we get sucked up into the truck. Piss up.
그래서 일로 해서 지가 올라가가지고
To the top of the ladder, and then from there into the trap, they call it. And then from there, they're taken into the hatchery and spawn, and not returned back to the river. They all die once they reach the hatchery, except for the steelhead. The steelhead are returned. Salmon, they're not returned to the river. The salmon die after they spawn. The steelhead do not die after they spawn. Now, that stuff over there, the weir and that crane, the cable across the river, that's used to install the weir on those piers out there. So during the salmon run, there's a fence across the river which directs the salmon to the ladder, prevents them from going up into the basin at the dam up there. If they go up to the basin at the dam, they're essentially lost. There's not a good spawning habitat there, and the anglers fish them out. They have a field day up there. So sometime in July, late August, or probably around August, we put the weir across the river for the fall salmon run. They stock generally at higher elevations than Sacramento, because that's where the cold water is. So this is funded entirely different. This is funded by fishing license fees. So we're helping the anglers who buy fishing licenses. Over there, we're making up for the dam. We're funded by the Fed.
It's a bigger salmon.
Yeah.
Trouts, this trout.
Rainbow trout.
Rainbow trout.
And there should be some kokanee and lahatan in here. But majority are rainbow trout.
It's big.
swimming.
Yeah.
Pretty older fish. They're big, huh?
So it's time to release, or?
Yeah, those guys look like they could be ready to go, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely ready to go. It doesn't matter. They can stock them at any size they want.
Oh, okay.
But then sometimes they like to stock them at catchable size. There are regulations and they like to stock them above a length of 10 or 9 inches or so. You can feed them with those. We have machines over there. For 25 cents you can feed them. You can walk
할인지.
처음에는 빳빳하게 고만하게 앉아가지고 제대로 가이드 안 할 것 같으니 또 따라다니고. 세크라멘토를 벗어나서 I-80 웨스트로 지금 나파밸리를 향하여 가고 있는 중입니다. 네, 여기는 80 웨스트에서 CA12 웨스트로 가고 있습니다. 여기에서 이제 가다가 29 노스를 만나서 올라가다 보면 우리가 가고자 하는 와이너리가 있는 곳입니다.
Slight right turn in 0.5 mile.
Hey.
Welcome. Are you in for one of our tours or tastings for today?
Yes.
And John and Bob went over to their house and saw them, so they took to Italy for their honeymoon. All right. And of course, the father came first, and all the time, we were going to visit her. The father came over, and he was over for just a short time.
It was founded by my great-grandfather in 1885, San Francisco. He was one of California's pioneer winemakers. And went out of business in Prohibition. They were forced out in 1921. Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to bring it back, to revive the family history, the name, and that's all I ever wanted to do. And in 1975, after coming back living in Europe again, I refounded it. And it's easy to say, I did it with no money and a lot of hard work and no knowledge either. Visa Tuli Winery has been very successful, really good wines, and the success of that built this. I had an architect, a local architect, who wanted to design it. I found that out real fast, and I fired him. And so I got another architect. I said, I'll hire you, but you have to do everything I tell you to do. Every line, everything. And I found a firm, and they were great architects, but I wanted to design this castle. And they agreed to do that, and they did. All the look, every niche, every door, every arch, everything, every room, every space, the exterior, it's all mine. We did this like they would have done in the Middle Ages. We carved and chiseled all the stone by hand. Everything's made by hand. The bricks are all old. You can't fake it. You either do it right, or you don't, or it's going to be fake, and everybody's going to know it's fake. And I think to a great degree we pulled this off. In fact, I think it's better than what I thought it was going to be. And maybe I'm not being modest, but that's my honest opinion. The project took over 30 years, and it took 13 years to get the permit. I didn't buy it initially to do a winery. I always looked for my dream property. I looked for that for years. That the property has 171 acres. It has a stream. It has a lake. It has forest. Everything I'd always dreamed about. So I was real fortunate to get it. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to have a little winery in the Italian style, medieval architecture? So I thought about putting up an 8,500 square foot building. Well, the 8,500 square feet over 15 years of construction morphed into 121,000 square feet. That's about 3 acres of rooms. It's on 8 levels, 4 of those levels underground, one below another, below another, below another. There's 107 rooms, but they're all different. There's no 2 rooms alike. You go throughout the castle, you won't find any 2 rooms alike. To build this castle winery, we shipped nearly 200 containers of materials. All the stone is local from 2 quarries in the Napa Valley. One's a hard basalt stone. The other stone is a soft sandstone. We even carved gargoyles out of it. And we did everything by hand here. So we used over 8,000 tons of stone in the building. We kept track. And in any event, about 95% of the bricks in the building come out of Austria, made by the royal brickmaker, the Habsburg, when they tore down old palaces. To make this castle authentic, and it is authentic, it's not something that faux, it's not something fake or halfway done. We used either burial materials or we did it the way it would have been done. We didn't use any cement in the grout because they had no cement then. We used sand, lime, and water. That's what we used for grout because that's the way it was done. We found craftsmen actually in 8 different countries around the world. We used materials from 5 different countries. Americans didn't know how to do this. They're not used to anything like this. So I had to find the right guy to do this. About 22 years ago, I received a brochure in the mail from a group of people in Austria that were making small wine cellars for people using the old materials. I was fascinated with the brochure. I had no property, I had no money, but I filed it. I didn't want to throw it away. 5 years later, 7 years later, I was going to Austria. I think I finally bought this property, 1993. I took the brochure with me. I knew I was going to Austria. I found this fella in a little village about 80 miles southwest of Vienna. I go up this doorstep holding the brochure. He comes out to me speaking German. He sees the brochure. He doubles up laughing, almost falls on the floor. And then when he got up, he said in broken English, "Do you know, I sent 2,000 of those brochures out about 5-7 years ago. I got no replies, and 5 came back, wrong address, and here you are out in the snow this winter on my doorstep with this brochure." And he said, "Come on in." And so then we talked for several days. I told him I wanted to build a castle. He thought I was absolutely nuts. And he says, "A wine cellar I can understand, but a castle." And but he agreed. And essentially, he came with 6 Austrians. They lived in my house for 3 months, and they built 2 rooms out of the 107. And we watched them do it, and that's how we learned how to do it. He was a master builder in Austria, and he built houses, nice houses, but his real passion was castles. So he'd study them, and he learned the techniques of doing, and reading about them, he learned how to do them. And so he was able to transfer his knowledge to me, and that's where we were able to build the rest of the castle. I found in Umbria, in the Sisi, a fellow who was the last remaining blacksmith, does everything over the open forge. He made every light, every chain link, everything by hand over the open fire. He made the gates, he made everything out of metal here. And in conjunction with a carpenter that was a real skilled carpenter, they made every door. And there's basically no 2 doors alike. You know, in the old days, everything was done one piece at a time, and everything had its own personality, its own character. Nothing was modular, nothing was mass-produced or a production line. And that's how we tried to do this. So the doors are all the things I saw on my travels throughout Tuscany and Umbria over a period of year. All the great doors we've tried to incorporate. But a lot of the people who contributed this saw something exceptional going on, and I think that's why it turned out so great. We're trying to bring a slice of Italy. We're trying to bring it back in time. You come off Highway 29, you make the turn under our property, and you were in Italy 500-600 years ago. That's what we're trying to do with great Italian-style wines, with food, with Italian-style hospitality and warmth. It's another world, and every room opens into another adventure. This is the absolute ideal venue for great events. We had our first party last Saturday night. It was a medieval banquet. Turned out we sold it out in 10 days. We did it in the Great Hall and throughout the winery. Virtually everybody came dressed in medieval garb. Soup out of a bowl. It was like 500 years ago. So we're going to do these types of parties where you go back in time and celebrate medieval life, and people love getting dressed up. So we're going to have our Midsummer Night Party out in the courtyard, and we're looking forward to that. Pleasure to other people in the form of great wines in the form of a beautiful castle that they can enjoy. And if I can convert these people that come once into lifelong customers and lifelong friends and make them feel part of it, then I've done something great, especially if not only do they feel part, but they go out and spread the word for us. And you can't buy that. And it makes me feel really good. The Castello di Amoroso in Italian means castle of love. And I think it's appropriate because I put a lot of love into it, thousands and thousands of hours. And when we started the project, I didn't have a name. That was 15 years ago, so we called it Project Villa Amorosa. I was going to name it something else, but then after years and years, everybody knew it as Amorosa. So I couldn't change the name. And so when I came to name it, I finally gave up. We'll call it Castello di Amorosa. I tend to talk a lot about the architecture of the castle because I'm so passionate about it, but I'm also really passionate about the wines. And of course here our primary concern is making small lots of Italian-style wines. As proud as we are of everything we make, I have to confess, it all starts in the vineyard. Without great grapes, you cannot make good wines.
I want to welcome you to the most northern part of the Napa Valley. We are here in the heart of the Diamond Mountain District, one of 15 appellations in the Napa Valley, with only 500 acres planted to vineyard, ranging from 400 up to 2,100 feet. This Cabernet vineyard is called Block 4 and was planted in 1997, just south of Castello di Amoroso. Some of the most concentrated and delicious Cabernet Sauvignon in the Napa Valley are grown in this region. As you can see the vineyard behind me, it is very steep and it needed to be planted in a terrace style, otherwise it would not have been possible to farm it. Making wine on a hillside is even more challenging than on the Napa Valley floor. And the one person who's confronted with that on a daily basis is our winemaker, Brooks Painter.
Growing grapes on a hillside is very challenging. We have much less soil, typically 1 foot or less, compared to 3 to 7 feet down the valley floor. What this does is it really makes the vine stress and struggle during the growing season. The berries tend to be smaller, the clusters are lighter, and yields are about half of what we might see in the valley floor. What this does for the wine, the quality of the wine is magnificent. It's dense, it's dark, it's deep purple, and these wines are very distinctive, very characteristic of the particular terroir of the site that we're growing. In our case, Diamond Mountain District is a very powerful wine, very rich and very expressive.
Here we are at the Castle Crush Pad. This is where the grapes are brought in and crushed. Let me back up for a minute. The harvest usually starts in early September, and at that point the winemaker and the vineyard manager are out in the vineyard every day testing the grapes, tasting the grapes until they think they're ready at their optimum maturity. We go through and hand-pick everything. And if certain vines aren't ripe or certain clusters aren't ripe, we don't pick them. We make another pass and sometimes even the third pass through the vineyard so that we get only the grapes that are at optimum maturity. This is really costly to do it this way, but we know it makes better wines. At Castello di Amoroso, we use a combination of traditional methods, that many of which my great-grandfather used, and of modern technology. But we only use modern technology where we're absolutely convinced that it'll improve upon traditional methods. For instance, here we are at the crusher stemmer, where we crush our red grapes. First of all, we convey very gently the grape up to the top of the upper here with cleats. We don't use an auger screw. And so what we do then is one of two things, depending on the wine. We either do what's called pumping over, where we draw wine out of the bottom valve and with almost like a fire hose, and then somebody's on top of the tank bombarding the cap, and in doing so we're breaking up the cap and extracting more color and flavor. And then there's another way we do it, and that's why we have the open fermentation tanks. We do what's called the punch down method. And what we do, we have a hydraulic pole with a disc around it at the bottom, where we gently submerge the cap into the juice it was almost impossible to make great white wines in California. And the reason was simple. The climate was simply too hot, and there was really no means of cooling off the fermentation. First of all, stainless steel is inert. It's neutral. It imparts no flavor to the wines, and they're easy to clean. So it's absolutely ideal for fermenting both white and red wines. And then we add these jackets, and so we can cool or even warm a tank to any degree we want. And with most white wines, the cool fermentation is very important. So most of our whites are... Let me talk a little bit about barrel aging. First of all,
Qua dong. Giờ thì đi ngoài giờ anh đi nha.